I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is inequality is the basis of relationship. Now, this sounds somewhat counterintuitive, but I hope to demonstrate the truth of this statement in today's episode. Most people believe that equality is the basis of relationship, and that can't be further from the truth. But before I explain why this is the case, please remember to like this episode and subscribe to this channel. It takes less than a second, costs you nothing, and it's a great way to help spread this message. So if you like what you're hearing, then please do the thing. And if you're thinking about going to grad school, then you need to check out my GRE self-study program at stellargre.com. You can use the code PSYCH for 10% off all membership plans. Here's the thing. People need things from other people, and the medium through which value is transacted is a relationship. No relationship, no transacted value. And when the value of the proposed transaction is equal, no transaction occurs, and therefore no relationship is possible. Allow me to demonstrate this. Imagine I were to come up to you and say, hey, I'll give you this dollar bill for that dollar bill. Would you do it? It's kind of a strange request, right? You might respond, are you asking me to break that dollar into quarters so you could do laundry or something? As the same value in a different form might be more useful under certain circumstances. But if I responded, no, I just want that particular dollar bill, what would you think? At this point, you might start to wonder, is there something special about my dollar bill? Like, is it a misprint? Was it printed in a valuable year or something? Or conversely, you might suspect, is there something wrong with his dollar bill? Is this some kind of scam? This doesn't make any sense. The point is that you would begin to suspect the existence of some degree of inequality to make the proposed transaction explicable. So would you do it? Well, you might think $1 isn't that big of a risk, so if I'm getting scammed, I'm really not losing much. But if I were to repeat the same experiment with higher valuations, this $100 for that $100, this $1 million for that $1 million, you would become increasingly reticent. This is not just because the proposal is suspicious. If we assume that everything is legit and above board, the equal transaction is actually a net loss to both parties. Why? Because nothing is gained for the expenditure of time and effort to execute the transaction, which could have been more profitably spent in another transaction. Both parties spent resources, time, and energy for no gain. That's a loss. So equality is not the basis of a transaction, and no relationship is possible on these grounds. This suggests that inequality must be the basis of transaction, which is the actual fact. A transaction only occurs when both parties believe that what they are receiving is of higher value than what they are giving up. Let me illustrate this with a concrete example. When you go into a cafe and you hand over your $3 for a cup of coffee, you are functionally saying that in that moment, you esteem the value of that cup of coffee more than those $3. All other things being equal, you would prefer to have the coffee than the $3. And by the same token, the coffee maker would prefer to have your $3 than 12 ounces of his coffee. This is likely due to the fact that you have more money than coffee, and he has more coffee than money. So the differing marginal utility of the money and the coffee across the transaction creates the differing subjective valuations of the goods involved. And what this means is that both people think they're getting the better deal. They might say with their mouths, that sounds like a fair trade. However, internally, each person is motivated to act because he feels that he would profit from the exchange, and there is no profit in a strictly equal exchange. Indeed, as we've seen, there's actually a loss in that situation. So inequality is the basis of transactions, and the transaction of value is the basis of a relationship. Where there is no value transacted, there is no relationship. However, as soon as some value is transacted, voila, you have a relationship. And this holds true for romantic relationships no less than it does for professional relationships. A fair and equal trade of perceived value is not the basis of a romantic relationship. It sounds strange, but the economic principle remains the same. A relationship only occurs if both people think they're getting the better deal. And this is possible due to the subjective perception of value and the principle of marginal utility. This lattermost principle is something that seems to trip up women, especially successful women in particular. If I'm a rich and successful man, then the marginal utility of your six-figure income is negligible to me. That is not nearly as valuable to me as it might be to a guy who is struggling financially, who might not be who you really want to get into a relationship with. Bringing success and achievement to a man who already has those things is like bringing coffee to a cafe instead of money. They already have enough coffee. They don't want more coffee. They want more money, which is something that they have in scarcer quantities. Do you understand? Your relationship effectiveness will improve exponentially if you understand this concept, which is basically an economic principle. Economics isn't about money. It's about how people make decisions. And many of those rules are just as baked into human neurobiology as the rules of logic. You work against them at your own risk. What do you think? Have you seen this to be true in your own experience? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for listening.